G'day team, welcome to today's video. So today I am going to show you what I've kind of got done so far and how I've done a few of these things, and then what the plan is from here. So we created a basic template in the first video, and then in the second video we started to load it up with stuff. So I've got a bunch of stuff here now, and I've been carefully kind of curating the things like, toilets and showers and vanities based on how they look in 3D. So for renders, I use Enscape. So forgive me for the trial version. I'm a struggling business owner just trying to make ends meet. So if we go inside, we'll have a look, and you can see that a lot of the components like cooktops and overhead cupboards and stuff actually look okay in 3D mode. So the benefit of that is if I modify them so that they look fine in like things like internal elevations, then if I'm ever having to do internal 3Ds, it's going to be very easy for me to just quickly whip one of those together. So obviously there's a few things like the showers, like a bit sticks up out of the ground a bit. It's just a starting point really, but it doesn't look too bad. Let's turn off 2-point perspective and go 1 point. So that looks way better. There's like a million things, like the material on the doors is pretty rubbish. These are actually the doors that came with Revit. I've just put a handle on the in the family, which actually wasn't too hard. So if we go here and go edit family, so I think I got the door handle was just a generic model from some other door family that I had downloaded, and then I went and placed it in 3D mode attached to the panel of the door. Then in the elevations, I just went and dimension. So just put a dimension between the actual handle and then a reference line, and the same deal. So it's locked to B0 on this reference line, and then it's 50 off the inside of the thing. So that's how it works with changing the door size. The handle's going to stay in the same spot. So yeah, we're kind of getting there with it. I've loaded in like a bunch of different windows and sliding doors and stuff. They all seem to look okay in 3D view. I've probably changed this material so that it's more like a black, like powder coated aluminium, just because that's just a bit more generic. But yeah, it's all kind of coming together, which is cool. So something else I've started changing is the tags. So I loaded some tags in, then immediately started changing them, because a lot of the time the out of the box tags for things like doors and windows and things, they're pretty average. So let's take a window tag for example. I've already made some modifications to this one. So this is the window tag Australia, and I've modified it so that there's either a number, so we've got a window number like that, or it's got the name, which is the type. Obviously the name has to change, so all I really need to know about this window is it's an 1806 double hung. So that should say 1806 ADH for aluminium double hung. I don't care about single glazed, anodic, QSDL, like it's just too much information. Okay, so in terms of editing these families, all I'm doing is, so you go up to family types up here, and then you can add and remove and kind of rename types as you need. When we load something in, there's a little thing over here called the visibility parameter or visible parameter. If you associate a parameter with this, you can then choose whether it shows up. So I'll explain what I mean in a second. So we've got a type name. Let's just go Control C, Control V, and then paste in place. And then we'll make this a label for let's just go sill height, and then we'll load that in. Okay, so sill height. Now we've got our sill height label selected. Let's go up here, so visible, and then we don't want it to be either name or number, so we're going to create a new type parameter and then call it sill height, and then go OK, and then go OK again. One thing I will do with that is let's put a prefix and a suffix in, just so that it has a bit more of like I don't know if they're called parentheses or not, but yeah, okay, so that's looking good. What we need to do now is go up to here, and then we're going to create a new type, and then it's going to be sill height, and then we'll go OK. So in our sill height type, we don't want to see the name or the number, but we do want to see the sill height. So then we'll go OK. So let's load that into the family. Okay. Load that family into the project, and then go override existing version. Okay, so what's gone wrong here? So we've got, in the name, the name type is saying sill height as well as the name, which is no good. If we go to sill height, okay, that's good. Number, okay, so it seems like we didn't turn it off in the other ones, which is totally fine. So we go through sill height, number, name, and that's good to go. All right, let's go OK. What I want to do also is go OK. So I just wanted it to say sill. So let's see how this is looking. Okay, so let's try and, so it's not working. So the problem we're having is it's still saying that the yes no parameters up here are ticked in the name and the number, like, name and number. So we'll load it back in again. We'll go OK, and then we'll say overwrite existing version and its parameter values, and cool, that looks like that's worked. The funny thing with these is you spend a couple of minutes setting it up, and then you spend the rest of time forever actually using them. So I've spent way more time actually using these things than I have setting them up, because generally you set them up once and then you forget about them forever. Cool. All right. So yeah, that's just an example of the kind of stuff that I have been doing so far. Okay, yeah. Something else I have done, which you might notice, is I've set up a bunch of sheets off to the side here. Now, I can't stress this enough. The way that sheets get set up is something that I think that the Revit community are extremely divided upon. What I've set up here, this is just the way that I like to do things. This is by no means the way to do it. It's just a way that I have found convenient. So the way that this works for me is we've got 23 sheets, or it'll probably end up being closer to 30 sheets, pre-made sheets. So, say on the site plan is already here. On the floor plan's already loaded in. You'll have whatever notes you want. That's kind of preloaded onto the sheets. So it just saves you having to click and drag and set sheets up whenever you set up a new job. Then when you're actually going to go through and use these sheets, you would then just rename it as, all right, so cover sheet's going to be 1, site plan. So say the job has an average sized block. We don't need the overall site plan. So we would just call this 2 and then call it site plan. And now that becomes sheet 2. And then whatever sheets we don't need at the end. So say we don't need any of these down the end here. This will make more sense when I actually go to the cover sheet. So see, at the moment, we've got all of these sheets are included. Whatever we don't need, we just select them all. And then we come over to here, and then appears in sheet list. We're going to uncheck that. So now they're not part of the set anymore. And generally you'd go 1 through to 16, and then it'll start saying A12, A14, A whatever. And then you just kind of ignore those sheets and just make sure you don't print them. Like it's a pretty simple system. I don't see, it's just to save time essentially. by having everything kind of pre-made, because generally every floor plan is going to be quite similar to every other floor plan you do. There's going to be individual little changes here and there, but yeah. Something I haven't got into at all yet, which is pretty obvious, is this pretty horrendous title block. So pretty much going to have to strip that back and make it again, which will be its own video. I've been kind of thinking about how best to lay that out and then how it can look. Yeah, but this title block, it's just kind of yuck. Like, you can definitely get a bit more space on this sheet, and then this is just too, like, the font's just massive. Like, it's just horrendous. Needs some work. So I also have been having a look at okay, this is the kind of a side note here. So when I just clicked on that window to set it up, or to set the head height. So the head height is 2150 and its base level is GFL. Now you'll actually notice that I do have a window, like a ground floor window level here. So you'll be thinking, why do I not just set it so that it is at the window height and then the head height would be 0? The reason that is when we actually go to a window schedule. Here we go. Window schedule. It's not in here, but let's quickly add it because it's good to know. Head height. Okay. So now you can see that it says head height is 2100, 2150, blah, 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 whatever. If we go back to here and set these two so that they are G0 and 0, it then says the head height is 0, which is just useless information. Now, is there a way around this? Maybe. Have I looked? Not really. This is just the way that I've always done it. There may be another way around it, but to be honest, the head height of the windows on a job is one of those things that doesn't really change that much. You'll set it up at the start of the job, but then it's not like you're going to get to later on in the job and they say, oh, everything's going to be 2400. That's pretty rare. I mean, it does happen, but it's also just a case of changing that to 2400 and then going in 3D mode, selecting all the windows and then changing it to 2400. Like, it's not the end of the world. So don't worry too much about that. Something else that you will have noticed that I've kind of got a bunch of dimensions and things here is locking of dimension levels. So this is something that might give some people hives, but it's something that is pretty fundamental for the way that I do things. So when you lock a dimension between levels, that means that level is going to stay the same, which is what you want for fixed cavities. So 40 mil between the ceiling and the roof level, that shouldn't really change. I'm never going to change that. So we can lock that. Height between the floor level and the ceiling level, yes, that will 100% change from job to job. And you want to be able to change it from 2400 to 2700 relatively easy. And now you can see that 360 stayed the same, 40 mils stayed the same. Now this all needs to be updated as well. So let's grab that, make that 2400, 2150, and then that's pretty good to go. So what I could have done before moving this lower level is lock that, grab the ceiling level, change it, 2700, enter, and then everything else is just moved up with it. So you probably want to do all of the locking of these dimensions in one particular view, say the front elevation, because if I now go to another random side elevation and try and move these things around, it's going to say that that's locked. Okay, cool. So that's locked between there. That's locked there. Sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge to find the dimension to unlock it, but maybe it looks like that's something that they have patched, which is good. We've definitely had times in the past where we're trying to change a level of something, and then we cannot work out where it's been locked to unlock it. And just doing the dimension again, maybe it was a glitch, but the dimension would come up saying that I have no idea what you're trying to do. So, yeah. Oh, here's another thing. So this video is just an absolute mishmash. I'll hopefully make a recap video of the whole process just as a step-by-step thing later on. But at the moment, I'm just kind of like pouring my thoughts out onto, the stream. Okay, so I've got a boundary properly aligned set up. That's all good to go. I've actually drawn some reference lines which are in line with these boundary lines. So the reason I've done this is because in elevation view, it's actually a pretty good idea to be able to have the side boundary preset as something that you can see. So otherwise, if you're trying to draw a line in for this side boundary, you'd have to go up to the site plan, come in here, go wireframe, do a dimension from here to here. So it's, all right, so it's 2220, then we go back to our front elevation, then we draw a line from here, 22, no. So what you can actually do is set up a little reference line. So that would be in architecture, reference plane, and then just draw one in, and then just draw one along the side boundaries, provided that they're horizontal to the property. That's all good. If it's at an angle like this, they won't show up. Then when you go and draw your boundary lines in your elevation, it's just as simple as aligning there. And don't worry about whether these red lines are going to print or not. They won't. So if we go to the print dialog here, current window and preview, you can see that you have your big thick boundary lines, but there's no red lines there. So that's good to go. But that's just another little tip there. Okay, one last thing that I have been setting up is the dimension style here. So dimensions are so important. They're possibly the most important part of the sheet. So it's very, very important that they read well. They're not too cramped, but you can fit a lot on the sheet. It's important that the font is easy to read and the font prints well. And yeah, there's a bunch of factors. So going through and editing this, just trying to set it up so it's easy to read as possible. So it's obviously gonna have a continuous baseline is like, that's a totally different dimension style altogether. Setting up things like the tick marks. So I've just gone diagonal 2 mil because it's very, very basic. There's a bunch of different options here. So you can go like open dot, which is fine, but I think just for the simplicity's sake, I've gone diagonal 2 mil. You can change the line weight of the tick and the extensions as well. So if I go thin lines, so at the moment, this is how it's looking. If we go edit type and then change like this to 5, for example, you can see that that's then made it like very, very hard to read. So you've got to find a good balance between like, yes, you can very clearly see what's being dimensioned and where, and then yeah, something else. So you can change the witness line length and then the witness line extension. So 3 mil and 2.5. So that's like how far it extends. These lines extend this way and then this way. The dimension line snap distance. So I've gone for 4.5 mil, which means that if we've got a row of dimensions here, this one is going to snap. So you'll see it snaps because it doesn't move for a second. Snaps to there, and then you can go through and move that off the line. Is this how my dimensions are going to look forever? Probably not. I might either get some feedback or just change my mind about how I feel about it. But yeah, obviously the text is, I've gone Arial because it's just the most generic, easy to read font in the world, and then a width factor of 0.85. So Arial itself is a bit wide, so I've just narrowed it up, and hopefully it should be quite easy to read. And then obviously the text background is transparent so that, you know, you see the lines up in here, and you can move the dimension off the line and then turn off the leader if you want. But yeah, that's one of those things. I'll probably be playing around with that for a while before it really gets settled in. I just wanted to kind of explain what I would be looking for in a set of dimensions. I've seen some terrible dimensions out there before, which someone thought were a good idea. Something else to be very careful of. When I showed you all how to make this wall with this 15mm layout out at the out in the face here, when you're dimensioning this wall, you have to be extremely careful not to dimension to the outside face. You always want to dimension to the inside face. So if this is a 90mm stud wall, that dimension should be 90. Like it should not be 105, because you don't actually know that it's going to be a 15mm cladding on the outside. It might be 13, it might be 20. All we know is that it's a 90mm stud plus some cladding. You really don't want to get in trouble for dimensioning 15mm of cladding when you're not sure it's actually going to be that. So just keep that in mind as well. If you have to dimension a floor plan and there are some external claddings involved. Now what I'm saying there, it doesn't apply to brick. Brick's different. So brick's a standard thing. You get a brick. A brick is a unit. There's not much variance in the actual width of brick. So this is going to be a 240 wall because it's 90mm of stud and then cavity and then brickwork. Brickwork is just kind of the same. Lightweight cladding, like we don't know if that's going to be FC or weatherboards or blueboard or whatever. Like it could be anything. 240 is good. 105 is bad. But yeah, look, I hope you guys got something out of that. It was more just me kind of rambling about what I've been doing for the past few days, I guess. Yeah, if there's anything that you want me to go over in more detail and explain better, if there's something that you want just a generic video about, then yeah, let me know. I'm happy to try and put something together. But yeah, thanks as always for watching. Talk to you all soon. Have a good one. Bye.